What's up, Desktopers? Xavier Wills here for Desktop Bodybuilding, and we are back with another video. And today I'm interviewing four-time Mr. Olympia, Jay Cutler, and my personal favorite bodybuilder of all time. So this is a dream come true for me, and I asked Jay about a range of topics. We talk about his mindset, we talk about what he thinks of these other divisions, we just touch on a whole bunch of stuff in part one, and part two gets even better as well. So that will be up not too long after part one goes live as well. So if you like this content and appreciate me getting these interviews and putting all this up, make sure you give me a thumbs up and smash that like button on this video. Also subscribe and hit the notification bell button. That way you'll be notified of every video that goes up for myself, Xavier Wills at Desktop Bodybuilding, which includes part two of my interview with Jay Cutler. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoy this interview. Welcome back to Desktop Bodybuilding, and today I'm joined by my personal idol growing up, getting into bodybuilding. I'm joined by four-time Mr. Olympia, Jay Cutler. Jay, welcome to Desktop Bodybuilding, and thank you so much for doing this interview.
Finally, great to catch up and get this interview done, and I think it's the ideal time for it, and I appreciate you taking the time to reach out to me continuously, yeah. And of course following my channel and understanding what I've been doing lately. So that's really cool.
For sure. And I said to myself at the start of the year, I said to my partner, I said to a few people, I said, I want to interview Jay Cutler this year. That was like one of my goals, and I'm so glad I'm ticking that off now. And I'll try not to do what Fuad did, where he lost the first interview he did with you. So I'll try to keep this one and make sure it doesn't fail on us. But I actually want to mention a quick story before we get into it. Now, I met you back in, I think it was 2007, after you beat Victor at that Mr. Olympia. You came out to Australia. I competed. I think I was 17 years old or something like that. I was really young. And I met you when the athletes were signing up, and I bought one of your DVDs. And then actually after the day after my show, you were there, you were signing photos, talking to people and all that sort of stuff. And you actually said to me and my friends, you said, oh, you guys enjoy food after the comp. And you go, oh, what did you do? Go get some blueberry pancakes. And we literally had gotten blueberry pancakes. And I was like, Jay's like, I'm like, how does he know? And like, we just looked at each other and was like, what? We're like, yeah, we did. And you're like, oh yeah, cool. And we're just like, what?
Yeah, huge, great experience. I mean, I was kind of booked by Paul Graham and Tony Doherty, brought me over for a tour. After every Olympia, they brought the athletes over. I mean, Phil Heath did it, Ronnie Coleman did it, but they brought me over for that tour that year. And I went from each location. I went all over. I was in Queensland. I was in Melbourne. I was in all over the place. And people ask me often about my favorite destination to visit, and I always say Australia.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. So hopefully next year we'll be out in Classic Australia. We'll be back out here and meet the fans.
I would love to, and I do want to visit New Zealand. That's on my bucket list also.
Yeah, my partner's actually is from New Zealand, so we were planning on going. We actually are meant to be there right now, but obviously with everything that's going on, we're not in New Zealand, didn't get to go to the Arnold Classic Australia and whatnot. But what's been going on day to day for Jay Cutler now? Obviously, we've got this quarantine thing. I think you guys are in isolation over there. We're close to it here. We're basically in isolation, but without calling it that. What does Jay Cutler do day to day now? And what advice do you have for people that are, I suppose, going through this, and struggling or maybe lost their jobs?
For me, it's kind of business as usual. I hate to say that in these kind of times because, as you know, and you follow me and a lot of the people that watch these videos online know that I travel every week. So that's been on hold. And normally for the past 20 plus years, I'm the busiest of the season, usually in March and April. It starts with the Arnold Classic Ohio, and then it just rolls from there. I would have been in Germany for the FIBO this weekend as we're filming this. That's where I would have been in Germany at this point. Unfortunately, as you know, everything was canceled. Vegas is very, very quiet. The hotels are closed, the casinos, all the pools are closed. A lot of people have been relieved of their jobs, meaning unemployed, or some are still getting paid time off. But people are kind of listening here, which is kind of a rare case, as you see in some places in the U.S. the younger generation tend to not take it as serious. But what I've been doing is I'm running all my business, and fortunately for me, I do a lot of stuff online. But I do have a strip office, meaning I'm very close to like where they're building the Raiders Stadium right now, near Mandalay Bay. I do have an office there that I go to on a daily basis, or I work from home, and you see I'm in my office here. But a lot of my stuff is conference calls, Zoom calls, and basically handling manufacturing of the products, and then kind of running the other business, dealing with my attorneys. I am very involved with a lot of the businesses I do. I make all the final decisions in all the partnerships that I even have. So for me, it seems like it's nonstop. I mean, last night I wanted to work out, and I was super tired, and I even posted on social media like, here goes this drink, I'm going to drink this, and I didn't want to take anything too late, so I didn't use any caffeine, and I went in my garage and I worked out, and I felt so much better. And I think unfortunately a lot of people don't even have access to any weights, and I do have a barbell and some dumbbells at home, but I did the whole push-up thing. I've been staying on a better diet. I do a ton of cardio. I'm trying to get in my best shape possible. I'm coming out of this. I texted Dan Solomon from the Olympia, and I said, hey, there might be a place for me at this year's Olympia, right? Because obviously I'm qualified, right? So I was kind of joking. He's like, yeah, we can do it. You can do a classic physique, you know? So it's, it's just right now, it's just trying to stay as busy as possible. I've caught up on a lot of filing and cleaning up and doing some stuff around the house. And it's kind of nice not traveling, but by the time this is over, which we don't know when that is, I think I'll be anxious to get out there and boost morale of people that are, suffering a little bit. So I'm just trying to put out a lot of content. We're still doing stuff with JTV. I'm doing a lot of giveaways on my Instagram, promoting, whatever I'm doing in positivity, not negative stuff, and just letting people know, hey, because I'm in my position doesn't mean I'm not in the same situation. Unfortunately, all of us are in the same boat where we can't do anything really that we would like to do. I like to go down to the strip and go out to dinner, and I would like to travel to a destination, but I can't right now. It's just everyone's kind of on lock. And I've been riding my skateboard every night. I've been kind of doing stuff around my neighborhood, but I don't go very far. Yeah. Other than just work. And I'm going to the store. Fortunately, I get a lot of food delivered through Trifecta, so I'm able to eat my meals, but paying more attention to the diet right now. I'm getting a little fuller, but I'm getting leaner at the same time.
That's cool. Now, what's your morning routine look like? Because I saw you put up a post, I've got it right here, just the other night on your story. You said, every night before I sleep, I take time to reflect on so many blessings I have and am so grateful for each day and every day. And you said, upon waking each day, it's the beginning of another chapter of my journey. Believe in yourself. So you're putting out, obviously, that positivity. Now, do you have a set morning routine that you follow every day? Because I want to try to get into something that I haven't really heard too much about when I've heard you interviewed before. I've heard more about the, what do you think of your 2001 versus, other Olympias and whatnot, but I don't hear too much about your actual mindset and what actually drives you. So do you have a set morning routine?
I actually do, and I wake up between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m., no matter what time I go to bed. And that's just my age. That's where, as you get older, you seem to sleep a little less, even though I went through a crazy routine when I was training for all the titles and the trophies you see behind me. But what I like to do is wake up between 5 and 7. I usually get up and I have, a couple glasses of water. I start to, get my mind working a little bit. Sometimes I'll dive into emails, but sometimes I'll go right to doing cardio. I always do fasted cardio. So whether I start right away after drinking some water, I might take a little tiny bit of pre-workout just to get my head a little better. And then what I'll do is, whether or not I do that cardio right away, I jump right into a couple emails that are important that I know, like I woke up through the night and I was thinking, I got to do this or that. I go right to the cardio session, and that cardio session is not strictly for trying to stay in great shape, because I always believe in fasted cardio if you're trying to lean down, whether you're getting ready for a show or just trying to lose weight. I use it to kind of set my head for the day. So when I walk, either outside or I have all my elliptical or my stairs in the garage, I pick about 20 to 40 minutes each morning, and I kind of set my head for the day and go through, okay, this is what I'm going to go through. Sometimes I'll do phone calls if it's absolutely necessary, but I try to push everything past 8 o'clock in the morning so I can do my cardio, set my mind for the day, get a kind of a game plan in my head. I cook my breakfast, which is the same breakfast I ate for the past 15 years, pretty much. And then what I'll do is I'll handle a little business, and then I usually right now I'm trying to work out. So I'll eat one meal, and then I'll probably within an hour after eating that meal, I work out. If I'm not stuck on phone calls, and then after that, it's just conference calls or whatever, head to my office. But normally if I was not in quarantine, I would probably train later in the day at a gym, like down the street or whatever, Lift Factory or LVAC or EOS. I train at a different gym every single day, which is the ideal thing in Las Vegas. And when I moved here in 2002, that was the cool aspect about Las Vegas. It was 24 hours, but more importantly, I could train like legs at a certain gym. I could train chest at a certain gym, do arms at a certain gym, because there was always one gym specific for each body part that I like to train at. And as you see, a lot of bodybuilders migrated to Vegas. We saw Dennis Wolfcom, Gustavo Bedell was here. Sean Ray was here in the past, Paul Dillette, Craig Titus was here. So there's a lot of bodybuilders that have come in and out of here. And the Vegas lifestyle, it kind of fits that whole training aspect, although people get little off track sometimes with the party scene also.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I want to sort of get your advice on, because a lot of people out there, that have goals, that have aspirations to do things, they either stop themselves before they even begin, because I don't know if it's because of fear of failure or what it is, or they get to a certain level of success and then they chill, they stop, they celebrate, and then they sort of go backwards from there. What advice, I suppose, or what do you do? And how do you stay motivated, I guess, because you obviously are very successful. You've made, enough money to be comfortable from what it seems like from the outside. How do you maintain that level of, I suppose, work ethic? Because you seem to work a lot still, even though you are financially pretty well set.
Yeah, I grew up in an upbringing where I was forced to do things that weren't necessarily, I didn't voluntarily want to do them. My concrete family business, the farm. My dad was a super early riser. He'd get up at like 4 a.m. He worked his whole life. He's 91 now. He retired at 65, but he actually stopped working at 89 because he had a fall. And now if he was still able to walk comfortably, he would still be running the tractors and doing what he does. My brother still raises a bunch of cows out there in Massachusetts. And, growing up, every school vacation, weekends, after school, sometimes before school, were spent working in the business, and that was the family business, because if we didn't produce, we didn't eat, right? So I was the youngest of 7 kids, so I was taught like early on. I mean, at 11 years old, I was basically buying my clothing at that point for the school year. At 14, I bought my first car. You don't get your driver's license until you're 16 and a half. And I was driving without a driver's license, to be honest, because I was forced to be an adult early. That lifestyle, which I told you I did not necessarily like that lifestyle because all the other kids were enjoying life, I was like busting my ass. Well, that set me up for when I started bodybuilding at the age of 18. I was a worker, and I felt that I outworked people even with better genetics, and I'm not afraid to work, but I'm never satisfied. That's the whole thing. And that's kind of a downfall. And I've done interviews in the last week, and I talked about how I would win the Mr. Olympia, and, we'd be at the celebration party, and I'd be asking like my whole team, like, okay, what can I improve on? And it's like, dude, relax. You just won the show, and, you don't have another year to actually, compete for the title again. But I was such an overachiever. But I'm never satisfied. I'm very motivated by people that are hardworking around me. So I surround myself with a lot of great people and a lot of success. And that's, I think, key for me, was to pick inside the brains. And I listen to everyone, no matter if they're levels below me or much further above me. It gives me kind of a range to shoot for. And I learn from those kind of people, and I'm very open to that. So I'm receptive to a lot of compliments, but I'm also receptive to the people that sometimes criticize me, because I'm not perfect, and I realize that. But I wasn't afraid to read an article written by an amateur bodybuilder that wasn't even a pro yet when I was winning the Mr. Olympia to say, wow, that chest routine would work for me. I was always trying to find the different angles because, I was impressed by, however someone like went out of routine. It's just like you asked me, man, I want to get inside your head and know what you do on a daily basis. And for me, it's just easy, Xavier. I just wake up and I just do what's routine because I've done it for the past 20 years. But someone like yourself, you look at that and you say, okay, how's disciplines this guy and what's he do? It's really, it's my personality. I think it's my personality, and I still want to be better. If you ask me right now, Jay, what have you not achieved? I think I did the hardest thing I'll do in my life by chasing an Olympia title for, pretty much 16 years before I won it. But there's a lot more challenges that every single week. But what I like to do is I like to reset every week on Monday. And I always comment, if you follow me on Instagram, Monday is my favorite day of the week because people seem to be more motivated after a weekend. They're kind of re-energized. And I tell everyone, just start fresh on Monday. Don't fall short. By Friday, everyone's kind of like, oh, I've been working hard all week. And I know some people, their weekends are like their work days, right? But most businesses, if you look at like banks and post offices and how we kind of government stuff, it runs through Friday and then they take the weekend off, right? Unless you're overseas and like Dubai and those kind of places. I think, Sunday's their first day of the week. Friday and Saturday are their off days. But for me, it's just it's crazy because I'm just so motivated more than ever now to succeed in life and be a positive influence to people. And honestly, like for my fans, everyone motivates me.
For sure. Now, through your career, like I remember actually watching a video or hearing you speak on a podcast, and you were saying that you used to go back and watch your actual workouts that you were putting up on YouTube. I think through that Swole Monkey production. One that you was putting up, and you said you used to watch it like game tape. You used to watch your technique and you go, oh, okay, I could do that a little bit different or whatever. You don't really hear of guys doing things like that, and the amount of therapy that you used to get like, hours and hours every single week, on different therapies and whatnot. Now, I don't hear that much of guys doing things like to that extent these days. And there's still probably lazier guys, back in the 90s, like I've heard Paul Dillette wasn't as, strict on certain things, and with training, he didn't train as hard and whatnot. I don't really know that, but do you think you see less of that really hardcore hours of posing, hours of therapy and all that sort of stuff these days? Because I just don't see it as much as I did when you and Ronnie were battling it out.
100%. But then you have the guys that kind of break that mold. And I can say like Sergio for the Arnold Classic this year was an example of like this guy just worked and worked and worked and worked. I mean, brought Cormier in to kind of watch over him. He posed the hell out of him. He learned to pose better. He worked with Brad Rowe in the new newbie machine that really, gave the best out of the workouts. He lived in San Diego, put himself in an atmosphere. He's from Chicago. He lived in Venice for a while. He really kind of set himself up and really kind of left nothing to chance. He finished fifth, which I think was amazing showing, right? Fifth place he got, yep. Right? Yeah. I see that as like, and Dexter's the same kind of way. Like Dexter, he moved all the way from Jacksonville. He trains under Charles Glass. Like that guy just breathes bodybuilding. Whereas with me, remember, I wasn't working with the ultimate genetics of like a Flex Wheeler or even, let's say, Ronnie Coleman. So I had to take advantage of, okay, I need to do the therapy, keep my muscles pliable, keep the fascia released. I would spend 6 hours a week. You're right. I would bring people into Las Vegas to train with me to make sure that my intensity levels were altered through my preparation so I wouldn't get bored. I didn't have a trainer. I worked with Chris Aceto or Hani Rambod through my career, mostly Chris. Hani was towards the end, but those people were just from a distance saying, hey, this or do that with the diet protocols, not, okay, you need to train like this. Hani did help me a little bit, and Chris, of course, put his input, but I really didn't need a lot of help training. I trained my ass off. I would train twice a day, 4 times a day sometimes. I would train, in the morning, middle of the night. I switched things around so it wasn't stagnant. But I did start shooting in 2008, the Jay Cutler TV videos, and I would, have the guys film my workouts so I could see exactly how, especially like the back training, how my lats were engaging, and, my positioning when I was bench pressing or doing shoulder presses, like where the angle was and where the dumbbells were rising. I was doing mostly free weights. And it worked well for me. I mean, that's what made me great. And that's what made people like yourself realize, okay, there's more than just going to the gym and pushing weights. And I wanted to show the correct way. And now being retired, it'll be, 7 years now that I stepped away from competitive bodybuilding. I feel great. Like I can still go to the gym and I can still do all those movements. I'm not training heavy. Like I mentioned, the diet's still intact, but my goal is different now. I'm just trying to get a good workout. A lot of it's for my mind now. But I was very motivated through those workouts, and I was very precise. And I think a lot of like ball players and whatnot watch game tapes, right? I consider the bodybuilding thing the same way. We have to watch how fast we're going through the motions. When we squat, how deep do we go? I used to have people film me because I always felt like I was going like totally parallel to the floor. But when I look at the tape, they say there was actually more that I could actually go down and engage a little more in the hamstring and glutes, or, focus more on the quad, and whether I was doing a front squat or a back squat, or I was doing lunges with a barbell or dumbbells. Like I looked at the level that I would actually go down and really engage the other muscles. And that really gave me the opportunity for that. And I would always judge my workouts how sore I was in the recovery process. And that's the thing is, I was a once a week body part trainer, where you get someone like Phil Heath or Ronnie Coleman who train body parts twice a week. I realized I could not recover. I tried to train like that. I was a really crazy high volume trainer. So a minimum of 20 sets per body part. And it just worked for me. And that's the way I still train. I just don't go as heavy.
Yeah, and I was actually going to get into your training volume versus high intensity. And were you a guy that ever went to the high intensity, tried it out, and it just didn't work?
I love the Dorian Yates training style, like the beyond failure training and all that. But I saw him get injured, and I just didn't feel comfortable on the heavy weights. And, when I first started training, I was like any 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid. I had this big challenge with myself because I had the crazy legs, and I was squatting. I think I squatted almost 700 when I was 19 years old.
Wow.
But that's the problem. I was trying to get 1 repetitions with this weight, and I kept straining the muscles. And then I realized, okay, if I want a lengthy career in bodybuilding, I can't push these kind of weights continually, workout after workout. It's going to be damaging. I was staying too lean at the time. I mean, I was 240 by the time I was 20, and I was pretty lean. So for me, I needed to be smarter. And that's how I kind of handled the training. So I tried training lower repetitions, but I felt that the 8 to 12 repetition range always seemed to be best for me.
Yep. And when you actually go through, like, just say you're doing, biceps, for example, or chest or whatever, and then you do your first exercise, you're doing 4 sets on that. It seemed like you pyramided your weights up generally. Was that first set just to get a little bit of a feel in there, then the next set, a little bit more intensity, and then you slowly build up? And do you go to failure on your last set or close to it? Is that normally the way it works?
It's funny. It's funny because people say warm up, but I think that like once you do the first exercise, you're warm, right? Yeah. So you can't really call it your warm up sets. I call them feel sets. So I'll do 2 sets when I jump into the first movement. And I call those feel sets, and then I'll pyramid up after those feel sets. So I'll do, like, say if I'm doing, bench press or whatever, and I'm on a hammer strength machine, I'll do 2 plates aside. I'll do 12, 15 reps for 2 sets. And then I pyramid up, so I count 3 sets after that. So I try to do 3 working sets per exercise always.
Yeah.
But then as I move to the second movement, say if I'm doing chest and I started with incline hammer and I'm going to do a fly movement, I'll go right into 3 sets and I'll pyramid the weight up every set. Now the last set will be the heaviest set, but I'll still focus on doing 8 to 12 repetitions. And I'll pick usually 1 out of the 6 or 7 different movements I do through the whole routine, where I'll go kind of to failure depending on if I'm training with someone or not, but where the burn is a little more. But I think with the volume training, you can't go to failure every single exercise, or you will burn down. Okay, so and a lot of times I didn't train with training partners other than when I was training for the competitions, because I think a lot of guys came because they wanted the clout too, right? To be able to say I'm training with Jay Cutler, and it was kind of a big deal. And I always traveled with an entourage. If you follow some of my DVDs and that kind of stuff, I always had kind of people around. So, but it was just more eyes, and I did have people that helped me change the weights because I did move some heavy weights. But I remember telling the partners, I said, you can come train with me, but I'm not spotting you and I'm not changing the weight. So if you have to drop the weight, you need to set it back to what it was with me. And the reason I didn't like training with training partners, I'll be honest, the first time I ever said it on film, is because I would sweat so bad. And if I wasn't wearing like a headband or something, I didn't want to have to lean over someone and, I was sweating all over the place because, I mean, when I trained, it was like little rest time. My rest time's only 45 to 60 seconds. So for me, like I needed to like build the intensity between sets and not be thrown off by trying to drag the weight off someone else, because no matter what, when you train with someone like me, you're always going to try to either do the same weights or do more. And unfortunately, you're not conditioned for that unless you're doing it day in, day out. And no one was training, I felt, as hard as I was on a daily, because why would they? I mean, I was the one fighting for the best title in the world. So when you came in and trained with me, if you weren't training in that mindset, like you couldn't touch my intensity levels or, how I really trained. Don't get me wrong. There's guys that were stronger, but my endurance was like a machine. It was over and over and over. It's like I got stronger as the workout where people start to die down. And that's why I demanded so much food. And I mean, the amount of calories I ate even on a contest diet were just extraordinary compared to what people did or still do.
And you were a guy that I remember watching your DVDs saying that you used to eat 1,000 grams of carbs in a day regularly in off season. Is that was that pretty normal for you through the whole off season, or did you have periods where you just like pulled the food back? What was the go with that?
I'll be honest. I mean, a lot of days I would eat 800 grams of carbs on a contest diet.
Wow.
I would eat more as I trained for the shows. I would eat 7 meals. And I would have huge carb meals for breakfast, a meal before and after training. Off season, I ate as much food as I possibly could, and the majority was carbohydrates. Definitely try to shoot for 1,000 grams of carbs, whether I drank half and I ate half. I would drink a lot of like powdered Gatorade, or, when I was under contract with Muscle Tech, I actually used Cell Tech a lot. That was a great thing for me to get fullness. I eat a lot of pasta. Pasta was a good way to get the calories in. If you ask me, hey, what's the best way to get big? Chicken and pasta, man. Chicken and pasta every meal. That's how I used to, and I didn't get fat from that. So that's how I would get that food in. But I would force feed it. Don't get me wrong. I was not sitting there saying, oh, I want to eat, 200 grams of carbs every meal. That wasn't my goal. But that's what I realized I had to do in order to maintain the 300-pound off-season physique. And even when I dieted down to maintain the 280 until I dropped water and competed in the, 255 to 270 range. A lot of shows I was like different weights, depending if Ronnie was there or not. So there's a broad range, and, every physique was different. Every physique was different that I competed and won and lost shows. But I was always playing with what the best of that diet process was in order to compete, at the highest level.
Yep. Now, you've been so active post-career in bodybuilding. Now, some guys, I don't know if they're soured by the industry, but they literally finish their career and they step away and you don't really hear from them again. You've been the total opposite of that. You've been going around to expos. You've been really an ambassador for bodybuilding, which, I thought you'd still be active in the industry, but maybe not to this level because obviously your success and everything you've done outside of bodybuilding as well. Did you ever consider actually walking away from the industry and walking away from bodybuilding and just focusing your energies on real estate or some other sort of business?
I balance the two, to be honest. My true love is bodybuilding. I wanted to be a bodybuilder since I was 12 years old. I feel blessed to be able to win the Mr. Olympia. I come from a town of 6,000 people, super small, like I mentioned, youngest of 7 kids. So for me to achieve what I did is kind of unheard of. I didn't have everything just handed to me. I wasn't born in California and I wasn't raised around it. None of my brothers and sisters trained. So I kind of had to find my own path, and my lifelong goal was to, once I got to that level, was to win an Olympia title, and I won 4. Really wanted more. But now I realize that I stand a place in bodybuilding and people rely on the motivation. And, for me to be able to change people's lives, if I could change 4 people in a year's life, like take them away from either doing drugs or, diabetes, like overeating, or, people that have, an eating problem where it's, they undereat. Those kind of things are motivational for me. And I'm kind of surprised because, I was a professional bodybuilder by trade, and it doesn't have to do with necessarily some things that people strive for. Not everyone wants to be the next Mr. Olympia. When I met you when you were 17 competing, you probably had aspirations like, how far can I take this? But now look how adaptive you've become, and you've become a voice of fitness, right? But your interest is there. I mean, your goal may have changed in that amount of time. How many years ago was that? It was over 13 14
years ago. Long time, yeah.
So, and as a kid, and you meet someone like me, you're kind of shy, right? Because you don't know what to really say, what's right or wrong. And I try to make people comfortable, and I realize that I'm just a kid with a dream still inside a man's body, right? Because when I go to these shows and I watch, and I sat at the front row of the Mr. Olympia last year, and I watched these guys compete, and I actually caught myself for a minute. I leaned over to Angie, and I'm like, man, how do these guys look like that? And she's like, Jay, didn't you do this at like the best level for a long time? And I'm like, oh yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm just so impressed by the physiques now, because I know the hard work and the dedication, and unfortunately people don't understand unless you're inside of the business to know what these guys go through to achieve that look, to have that size and that condition factor together. And I'm a fan of it, and I don't ever want to walk away. I mean, I hope I can be involved forever. I promote 4 contests with my name. I have the branding in the business. I'm, still sponsored and partnered with a lot of brands. I have the supplements, but I do the real estate, and I do all the other stuff outside, like all the other business ventures. And I try to balance it, but it's challenging, man. I want to be the best, like 46-year-old guy, retired guy, So I'm kind of like competing with myself. Like, I was on Instagram last night with my shirt off training in my garage, and people are like surprised, like, man, you still look pretty good. And I look pretty good for not being like full-time what I'm doing. It's just kind of like a part-time gig for me, but I love it still. Like, I still wake up every day like, man, I can't wait to work out today. Yeah. So that's the cool part about it. I still enjoy it a lot. Maybe I'll wake up in 5 years and that's not what my goal will be anymore, right? But as you know, I don't have children. I have my dogs, and I still choose to live the lifestyle. I mean, I sit behind these walls in this office. I'm looking at all the awards right now, and it's like, if you didn't, you'd never know a bodybuilder lived in this house until you came in this room. People are shocked when they come over here and do work or whatever else, and they realize, oh man, you're that guy. Like, they don't know. And even meeting me face to face, they let's see the pictures of me and Ronnie. They're like, oh, you're that guy. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I'm still motivated, and I still love it.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned how obviously, when I was young, 17, I was nervous to obviously meet you, and which absolutely I was, like, you don't know what to say, you don't know what to do. And I actually remember when I first started doing the bodybuilding media side of things, I actually got an interview with Mil Sarchev, and I only did the audio at that point. I was just doing podcasts. And I remember clicking record on that, and I was literally shaking. My hands were shaking, trembling. And now I'm talking to, you are like, my main idol in bodybuilding. You're the guy I followed. When I got into the sport, I was only 15 or so. It was when you and Ronnie were really battling each other 15 years ago. And I was like, I remember being on a forum and sitting there and clicking the constant refresh thing because I didn't have a live stream just to see who won. And then I was like, Ronnie won. I was like, damn. And that was around 2004. And it's very surreal to be in this situation now where I'm actually interviewing my idol, and I'm not shaking, I'm not nervous, which is actually sort of a weird thing. You sort of, I suppose, adapt to it. And I suppose for a lot of people out there that are scared to do things, that's sort of something that they can, like, while they're going through this time, they can sort of push themselves to do something else. And this has been a massive, motivator for me already, like actually hearing and talking to you, not just hearing, I suppose, an interview of you with someone else, that you can actually push past. And, I think sometimes I limit myself a little bit in terms of, I get to a certain level and I chill, but hearing your story, it has definitely made me want to push past and go further with the channel and everything else that I'm doing as well. But,
let me ask you though, before, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no, it's cool.
Were your aspirations when you were competing in the contest to be a professional bodybuilder?
Yes. Well, I think I always had that dream. I remember watching the Ironmans and when they used to live stream them on bodybuilding.com, and I would watch those and go, you go check yourself out in the mirror when you're a teenager and go, Yeah, I'm not there yet. And I was always hoping I'd be able to get to that level at some stage. You know, I was, you know, natural, obviously, as a teenager and thinking, you know, maybe if I did do stuff in the future in my 20s or whatever, maybe I'd blow up and explode. Wasn't to happen, obviously. And I've had a few health issues and stuff and whatnot as well. And the men's physique thing sort of came around, and I suppose I was not falling out of love, but falling out of having that aspiration of being a really high level, I guess. And then the men's physique thing came around, and actually Aaron Singman, who you're friends with as well, he had a Redcon 1 readiness trials. So it's like a challenge, and you win $50,000 if you win first place. And I thought, okay, well, I've just been trying to have a baby. My physique doesn't look that great right now. I'm a bit smaller than normal, a bit fatter than normal. I can transform pretty quick, and I did that. And I got a few weeks into it, and everyone's like, oh, are you competing? Are you competing? And I was like, oh, I may as well give men's physique a go. And it's not, you know, men's physique isn't my main love, but to get in shape and to try to look really good. I mean, some of these guys look fantastic now. So I think it's a good division. As much as I didn't like it at first, now I'm competing in it. So it sort of gives me that extra bit of motivation.
Who's your men's physique idol then? You have to have one guy that, I don't know if people compare themselves. Like the shorter guys used to look at Lee Priest and be like, oh, Lee Priest is my favorite. Then they look at, like I looked at Dorian Yates and I said, oh, that's my idol, because we had similar physiques. Like we weren't super small waisted and we had, you know, wide shoulders or whatever. So who is your inspirational men's physique guy?
I guess in terms of physique that I match up more with, it's more like a Raymond Edmonds or something, because he's a bit taller, doesn't have the crazy thick...
He just won this year. He just won his first one, right, this year?
Yeah, exactly. So I was really happy to see that, because I was like, okay, well, my physique resembles him more than like an Andre Ferguson or a Brandon Hendrickson. I think Andre Ferguson's physique is just outrageous. Like he looks...
Crazy section, right?
Yeah, it's incredible. So, I mean... What do you think about it? Would you love to see more of these guys going into the bodybuilding?
I'll be honest, man. If I was streamlined like that, like as a kid, I probably, you know, that division to me it's attractive, right?
Yeah.
Not to sound like, I mean, it sounds like a little light, but I was a fan of Jeremy Buendia. I loved his like that taper. You know, this Raymond guy, like I got to see him at the Olympia. He's been a little quiet since he won. I haven't really seen much of him. This whole year is just like kind of, man, this is like going to be the forgotten year of bodybuilding and fitness, whatever I think. But you know, this Andre guy's good. This Brandon Hendrickson I follow. I think he's phenomenal. I was hoping to see him recap. I was hoping to see him win at the Arnold. You know, it was close. But that Andre guy's just amazing. But I think, you know, Jeremy's been like my, you know, I started with Mark Anthony was my guy, right? He won the first one. And then Jeremy won from that. He was second that year to Mark. So he kind of set the standard. And I just liked how, like, his package came together and the fullness and whatnot. But, you know, I think the posing's just not, like, I'm not favorable towards necessarily the posing as much. I think just like bodybuilding, like, when we stand relaxed, like, we shouldn't be like, you know what I mean? I just think it's a little too exaggerated. If you watch back in the Arnold era, how they went through quarter turns and they weren't super tensed up. Like we were just like, you know, like showing everything. I just think it's gotten too kind of robotic. You know what I mean? Like it's just too much standard. But everyone has their ways of showing their physiques. And listen, stand on stage. It's about showing your strong points and hiding your weaknesses. We all got weaknesses. But I was just curious about that because, you know, it just goes to show, like, the new division didn't exist in 07 when I met you, right? There was no such thing. It was all bodybuilding. So it really gave people like yourself that are a little taller the opportunity, because you're never going to be able to compete. You'd have to be 400 pounds being tall on the stage of the Olympia. It's like Lou Ferrigno. Remember, he was 300 pounds. He was the first 300 pounder, and he just was too tall for the shorter, stockier guys. So I think it's really cool. I think that I promote those shows, and those are our most favorable divisions, just like the women's bikini. I mean, I watch transition of that. And, you know, we go from there. I mean, these classic guys look unbelievable, though. The classic, not just, you know, men's physique, but classic physique. I mean, these guys are phenomenal now. Yeah.
Do you like the classic physique division?
I do. I think it's a little confusing. The shorts started different, you know, and now it's gone, you know, to trimmer shorts. But, you know, all those guys are super impressive. This Bumstead guy is unbelievable. Breon is great. This George Peterson was, I think, phenomenal. I think he's going to 212 now. This Ruffin guy looked unbelievable, DeArnold. I thought he looked good. There's a few other names. I just don't follow it that closely. But, man, that division, like, I can see new guys coming up and taking – just like men's physique, those guys are pretty big. I'm surprised how actually that's transitioned, too. The guys are getting a lot bigger. But I think anyone that stands on that stage and has the ability to be in their range of a certain weight to look their best, I'm positive towards that. So I'm not one of these bodybuilders that if you choose any division, as long as you're active and you're showcasing what you are passionate about, that's all I care about, and I'm supportive of it.
So that's it for part 1 of my 2-part interview with Jay Cutler, 4-time Mr. Olympia. Hope you guys enjoyed part 1. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you try to share it out. I've been getting so much love from you guys lately that have been sharing out my videos, just sharing themselves watching desktop bodybuilding at home and putting it on Instagram and tagging desktop bodybuilding, and even myself, Xavier A. Wills on Instagram, and I've been sharing those out as well. So it's much appreciated. Sharing the links, commenting below, all that sort of stuff. Let me know what you thought of this interview in the comments. It really does help me out, and I'll try to correspond with you guys in there as well. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. Make sure you like this video, subscribe, hit the notification bell button. That way you'll be able to be notified when part 2 of this interview goes up. Anyway, guys, for Xavier Wills, Desktop Bodybuilding, we are